This is an inspiration podcast, part of a series of collected inspiring stories by young and adult carers who have progressed into higher or further education or into careers of their choice despite the challenges and adversity presented to them as carers. The project was funded by Reaching Wider and hosted by Credu, a charity connecting and supporting carers in Mid, West and North Wales. We hope it inspires you.
I've been a carer for as long as I can remember. So when I was 8, my brother was born, and I don't really remember a time when I wasn't caring. When I was about 18 and my sister was 20, we took on the legal guardianship of my brother, my younger brother. He was terminally ill and he had Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is basically a muscle wasting condition, and people with that quite often don't live until past late teens. And so his condition was just physical, not kind of learning disabilities or any mental challenges. So we had this kind of, I don't know, I think it was like a challenging but also exciting caring role where we were constantly trying to keep him like mentally stimulated and doing his GCSEs from his bed and like really still engaged in life, but you know, not being able to move very much. So a lot of the care was quite physical. Like he was just a boy in a wheelchair until he was about secondary school age, and then the last couple of years of his life, he died when he was 19. He was more confined to his bed. So he went from sort of having wheelchair races and winning all the wheelchair races and being really active, and just to sort of declining, where he started experiencing like more kind of health problems. So he's on a breathing machine at night and morphine patches. And so there's quite a high level of care, and there's waking up through the night, 12 times sometimes, knees throughout the day. And but on the other hand, he was a young teenage boy and loved Harry Potter, and we got to experience all the fun, good times. And it would take 2 hours to get him up every morning, but we'd make it fun by listening to YouTube videos and headbanging and like making it, a good time. So I look back on that time as kind of like the best days of my life, really, because it was, just fun times where we had like a really good quality of life and a really strong family unit. It's emotional just remembering it, because I miss him. So as well as looking after my brother, my mum struggled with mental health problems, and in some ways everyone recognised that we looked after my brother because you can see a physical condition a bit more easily, and we were taking care of him and everybody sort of understood that. But I think people didn't really know that we'd actually been young carers for a lot longer for my mum, but because it was mental health problems, it wasn't really diagnosed, it wasn't really recognised as caring, and it was only when my brother came along that it sort of was recognised a bit more. But my mum struggled with a variety of different mental health problems, from like anxiety, borderline personality disorder, and all these things have sort of been diagnosed really only in the last couple of years. So when we were younger, we didn't really have a diagnosis or know what the problems were, but we just knew that we were responsible for cooking and cleaning, and we didn't really ever have food in the house, and that we brought ourselves up in that sense. When I was younger, I was doing my GCSEs and I didn't really do massively well because I had a crisis of confidence, and I just thought, I'm not good enough. I got put into set 1 for everything, but I felt like I wasn't good enough, so I convinced them to put me into set 2, and then I couldn't write in pen. I wanted to write in pencil and they wouldn't let me because I just didn't feel confident. And basically my brother was in hospital. I had an operation around the time of my GCSE, so I was like running from an exam to the hospital, and all my friends came out and they were like, how many A's did you get? How many A's did you get? And I didn't get any A's because even though I was an A student in school, I just when you're in set 2 for things, you can only sometimes get a B anyway. And I'd convinced them to put me down to set 2. And then, and I just, didn't do as well as I felt like I could have. And then, so when it got to A levels, I thought, actually, I just really want to see what I can do. Like, nobody was asking me to do well. I didn't have any parents saying, you should go to school and you should become a lawyer, or you should be a doctor, or any pressure. I just sort of thought, I want to know for myself, like, actually, what am I capable of? I then changed schools because I just felt like a fresh start would help me do that. So I moved from Landod High School to Bilth High School and did my A levels there. And I got 3 A's, and I also got top 5 in Great Britain. I got like an award. I said special accolade for getting one of the top 5 marks in Great Britain. And I had really put my mind to things, and the teachers saw me as with fresh eyes, because, it's different. Like when I was in secondary school in Landod, or, just before GCSEs, I felt that I was looked at as a child because people are children, but at home I was an adult. So I just found that like difference really hard. And then when I went to A levels, and because I changed schools, I was looked at a bit more like an adult, and I was able to sort of respond to that a bit better and put everything I've got into it. And the teachers were really supportive, and I told them about my caring responsibilities because it's smaller classes at A level as well. And I feel like you have more of a relationship with the teacher. And they were really supportive, and they gave me like a community award, and, just little things that really boosted me and helped me sort of with space for revision. And I kind of managed to do really well in my A levels, but it was kind of, I'm going to cry again. It was a really like amazing achievement when I got them, but then it was also quite emotional because I had no one to tell. So everyone went with their parents to get their results, and I went to get my results, and I thought, oh, I've got no one here. And I just felt embarrassed and ashamed. And I just went to the toilets and opened my results on my own. And I just saw that I'd got this kind of top 5 in Great Britain award. And then I had a knock on the toilet door from the secretary saying, oh, there's the newspaper here and they want to take a photo of you because you've got this like special award. And I was just remember that photo. I just looked so miserable because I was like so happy. But then I just wanted like to be able to tell parents or someone that I'd done well, but there was no one to sort of share it with or tell. So that was it was like I was doing it for myself really. But it was amazing to sort of, to achieve that for myself. But again, because I didn't really have that parental input, no one was really telling me to go to university, and I decided like, oh, everyone just goes to university because they're told to. I'm not going to jump through these hoops, and I'm different, and I'm not going to university. And then I worked in a shop in New Look actually for about a year, and I realised, oh, that's why people go to uni. Okay, so I had a year out where I worked, and then I realised, and I think because I was making the decisions for myself, like I decided, okay, I'm going to go to uni because I'd tried other things. I then put more effort into being at uni, whereas other people who were at uni were sort of just, their parents had told them they should go, and they were just messing around, or they weren't really getting the best grades because they were sort of partying loads. And I just felt like, well, I've chosen to be here, so I'm not going to waste my time. And, is a lot of an investment in money and time and everything else. So, but yeah, I think I was probably like a bit more sensible being a carer and just not wanting to waste that time. But then on the other hand, I did go out and I did party and I did drink and I did sort of have a social life as well. I do remember sort of sitting down with a social worker who was a social worker for my brother. And I remember saying, I really want to go to university, but I don't know how I'm going to afford it. And is there something you can look into to support? And she just sort of said, oh, it's not my remit, because she was really there to support my brother. And I didn't even know what the word remit meant to look it up. But I just thought, oh, right, okay. And I just really felt like, well, I don't have parents, and who else is going to help me do this? But then I think the fact that nobody did help me and I really had to just do it for myself, in some ways it is harder and it is a barrier, but it does mean that you are committed. Like if you really get through those barriers, then you definitely want to be there and definitely want to do it. I did have like financial difficulties throughout university, but it was difficult. I went to the financial support. There's a financial support office within the university, and I think all universities have that, and then they'll assess how your situation, and they can give you additional grants that are over and above the student loan. And so I was given like £2,500 and then another £2,000, and so that was really the thing that enabled me to get through financially. And also I did have a part-time job, but it was just like juggling, looking after my brother, having a part-time job and going to university. But my brother changed schools. So he went into secondary school when I went. So it's a bit complicated, but he was in the primary school in Landrindod, and then during that time I was in secondary school and doing my A-levels. Then I finished my A-levels at the same time that he finished my secondary, at the same time as he finished his primary. And so we were looking for a school for him, and the nearest school that was kind of suitable for people with physical disabilities like my brother was Cardiff. And so I went to Cardiff. I took a year out. That year I was settling in Frankie into his new school, and then I was also working in Newlook in the shop, and that allowed me to settle him into his new school. And I basically lived in the school and was given a bedroom in his school, and I also was given a teaching assistant job. I think I was given a job as a cleaner in that school, and basically became like part of the furniture there. And then after a while I could see like my brother was making friends and he was really settled and I wasn't really needed. Actually, I went up to him at lunchtime and I was like, oh, do you need this or do you need that? And he was like, you're embarrassing me. And I was like, oh, okay. I think it's time that I let go and let him have his freedom, because I think that's also important. Like I could quite easily mollycoddle him and just be there for every minute of every day. But actually, he needs his freedom just as much as I needed mine. And I think when you both have a little bit of freedom in your lives, you come back with fresh energy when you're then caring. So he was there 4 nights a week, and then he was home 3 nights a week. And those 4 nights a week, I thought, right, well, what can I do? I need to do something that actually gives me school holidays. And so actually university fits in with that, whereas a job doesn't fit into that. So for my situation, it actually fitted in well, and lectures were sort of 1 or 2 a day. So if I needed to go to the school for education appointment or physio appointment or any of these things, I was able to get there. So it worked out quite well, because we were in the same. I went to the university in Cardiff and he was in the school in Cardiff. So we were in the same location, and then I would pick him up after school on a Friday and we'd travel back to Landrindod for the weekend. And my sister stayed at home in the house in Landrindod and looked after everything there, and then we came home. And so it worked out really well, and it actually fitted in with my caring responsibilities. Having said that, there were challenges, like exam times, or making sure that if there was an exam on a Friday afternoon, because I would leave on a Friday morning to pick my brother up. That was challenging. But yeah, I was just able to like work with, the social services and make sure there was cover and that I had respite for those so that I could attend exams. I did actually ask for an extension in my degree when I did. So it was a 3-year psychology degree that I did, and I probably could have done it in 3 years, but I asked for an extension to 4 years because it just meant that I wasn't stressing with my brother. I wanted to enjoy my time with my brother. I know his life was terminal, so I wanted to make sure that I spent time with him. And yes, I wanted to go to university, but I didn't want to let that impact my caring responsibilities. And so they were really flexible, and they let me do the exams in year 3, but then do my dissertation in a year 4. And that was really great and really, really sort of meant that I could get through. So I just think university, when you speak to them, the admissions tutors, I didn't even go through UCAS. I just went to the admissions office and said, here's my situation. Is there any way that you'd let me in? And they did. So I think sometimes when you kind of speak to universities, there is support there. At first, I sort of felt frustrated. One of the barriers, was that if you're a care leaver, you get your rent paid, complete rent paid, And I was like, well, I'm not a care leaver, but I am a carer. It's even more so. Like if I'd gone into care, great, I would have had parents. But not only that, I was looking after my parents. Young carers weren't really recognised in terms of getting their rent paid then. I don't know how it is now, because this was like, a number of years ago. But because of that, I was able to get that financial support that was like the one-off financial support through the university. So there are other routes of support that universities can help with. I guess just one of the barriers, that's all the like practical things, but there are emotional barriers like guilt. You just sort of think, oh, should I be doing this? But then I was quite lucky in that I always had older friends who gave me advice, and like auntie figures. And one of my kind of auntie figures said, you should always have something for you, because if you put 100% into your caring, when Frankie dies, or if something happens, you've got nothing in your life. And actually it's really important to have something in your life, not just for me, but also for Frankie, for my brother, because when I was revising or learning new things, I was sharing that with Frankie and telling him, well, oh, did you know this? Or did you know that? And he was really fascinated in learning some of the stuff that I was learning. And he actually used to help me revise sometimes, because I'd sort of explain it to him, and not loads, but, enough that it just felt like I was bringing fresh energy into the family dynamic. And rather than sort of being like feeling dragged down, I felt like I've got something and then I can bring it back. And he had his own thing that he would do, and he would bring that back. And I just think both of us having our own sense of autonomy and freedom, but being a really strong family unit, that sort of contributes to that strong family unit. It's less suffocating and more freedom within, but still meeting your caring responsibilities. And I feel like it actually helped our the caring situation. I feel like it was good for everyone. It was good for him and good for me and good for my sister. So although I felt guilty at first, I just remembered that piece of advice of, you need something for you, and it is really important to have something for you. Because another piece of advice I was given was, you have to have a flower to give a flower. How can you sort of look after others if you haven't looked after yourself? And by going on for sort of higher education, for me, it was a way of looking after myself and my future. And I feel like that was me cultivating my flower, and it was, enabled me to then sort of flourish and bring that to my caring responsibilities in a sense. So yeah, that's how I overcame the barrier of guilt, I think. It's just seeing that actually it's good for everyone. So when I got my results for my degree, I got a first class honours in my degree, and I was really determined to get a first as well, just because I'm a perfectionist. And obviously a 2-1 is fine, and a 2-2 is fine, and anything you get, even if you just go to university or go to college, or any achievement is an achievement. But I just had set myself these like stupidly high standards, and I was like, if I'm going to go and I'm spending all this time, I want to get the first. And so that was my kind of goal. And when I actually got that, I could not have cried more, which is like tears of happiness, tears of overwhelm. I was crying so much, I thought I was going to like be sick. I was just like, it's so emotional, because I just thought, this isn't just an achievement that I've achieved today. This is something that is actually going to be with me forever. Whatever happens in the future, whenever my brother dies, or whenever something goes wrong in life, I will always have that first to fall back on. It doesn't, you can have a bad year and it's fine, because you've just got it. No one can take that away from you. Whatever your qualification is, you've always got it. So I just felt so sort of overwhelmingly, happy, but also this sense of, I've created a future for myself. No one's going to create it for you, and I'm not from a family that's ever going to give me inheritance or money or a home or any of these things. And so I just really thought, this is my ticket for my future, and I've done it for myself, So yeah, feel pretty proud of it. Although sometimes, I sort of feel like a bit embarrassed, because I'm like, I got 3 A's in a first, but then I sort of think, no, you just need to sort of be okay with that. We're sort of weird, British thing of like being bashful, but no, very proud. I was just going to say, on the transferable skills side of things, that I think because I'd been a carer, and because I'd been really super organized with everything. Everything had to like think in advance, and I had to plan things in a way that other people didn't. That actually, when I went to uni, a lot of people were spending a lot of time like organizing their life, and I already just did that naturally, and I didn't realize that I had that skill. And I'd realized that from caring, I had loads of skills, like the ability to communicate with professionals and tutors that other people didn't necessarily have, like good communication skills that actually were really useful, good organizational skills, and just life skills and maturity that really meant that things did come a little bit easier. The academic side was the same as anybody else, but the life skills really do help with education. And I think that was a result of caring that really helped put me in good stead. And I think that's true for if you get a job or whatever you go into, those skills are, really transferable and stay with you for life. People quite often comment on, my God, where do you get your determination from? And I'm like, I know exactly where that's from. It's from being a carer. And people don't see me as a carer anymore because my brother died. But I, in my heart, am always a carer. And it's because it shaped me and it shaped who I am. And that just doesn't change. Like, you always have those skills, and you always, have those things that you take later in life that you can kind of, you don't realize, but they do benefit from, you do benefit from them. And they're with you in jobs, in higher education, and wherever you go. So after getting my first, I decided I wanted to work in the charity sector, and now I'm a senior manager for a charity, and I run projects for refugees to support them to integrate into the UK, and I also work on climate change in education projects, and I earn £41,000, and I think that's a result of having my first degree, and I really enjoy my job, and I oversee 48 staff, and it's just a really nice place to be. And after getting my first, I feel like that's really helped me get here.